On the show today, we preview the NBA season.
The All Blacks flex their Rugby World Cup muscles.
And who has starred in the Matador Cup.
Stick around for all that and more. This is the Armchair Experts. Hello and welcome to the Armchair Experts, and thank you so much for joining us for our very last episode. My name is Daniel Jeffrey, alongside me is Jordan Matthews, and together we'll be taking you through another big week of sporting action.
That's right, we'll be chatting to former St George Illawarra and St Helens fullback Adam Quinlan, as well as looking a bit more closely at the Aussies in the NBA. But first, let's get some news headlines, where we'll start with the latest from the Wallabies camp.
The Wallabies are sweating on the fitness of three key players ahead of Sunday night's Rugby World Cup semi-final against Argentina. David Pocock and Israel Folau are hopeful of returning for the match, while Scott Seo is unlikely to play due to an elbow injury. The Wallabies will be hoping to improve on their lacklustre performance last week, which saw them scrape over the line against Scotland. The NRL's all-time leading point scorer, Hazem El Masri, has been charged with assaulting his 25-year-old wife. El Masri pleaded not guilty to the charges in Bankstown local court today. The news compounds a bad week for the NRL following CEO David Smith's resignation on Tuesday. New South Wales star Shane Watson has been ruled out of his side's Matador Cup final this weekend due to a calf injury. The Blues will play the winner of tomorrow's elimination final between South Australia and Victoria. The final will take place at North Sydney Oval on Sunday. To AFL now, and Collingwood have finally got their man after Greater Western Sydney agreed to terms for midfielder Adam Treloar. The Magpies secured the 22-year-old in return for 2 future draft picks. In other trade news, Jake Carlisle has made a less than impressive first impression at his new club St Kilda, after footage emerged yesterday of him snorting a white substance while on holiday in the US.
So obviously, with the AFL trade period wrapping up this afternoon, we'll have a little bit of a closer look at that later in the show. But let's start with the NBA season. Tips off next week. Let's start by having a look at who the championship favourites are. Jordan, who's your tip for the team to go all the way this season?
For me, it's Cleveland Cavaliers. We know how good they are. They've got the best player in the league in LeBron James. We saw what they did last year without 2 of their genuine superstars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, who were injured for most of the final series. Look, they're easily, by far and away, the best team in the East, and I think they'll do that very easily. Now, if they can keep healthy and keep fit, I have no doubt they can go all the way. They've got the team to do it. We saw what they can do last year. I think they can go one better. Yeah,
Cavs clearly the best team in the East. I'm going to look out West, though. You can't discount the Golden State Warriors, who are, of course, the defending champs, but I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. These guys have made some very smart pickups in the off-season. Got LaMarcus Aldridge, who is an all-star, terrific power forward. Got David West as well. He took a huge pay cut to come over from the Indiana Pacers. He's your old-fashioned bruising power forward. He'll help them out heaps. And they've got the best coach in the league in Greg Popovich. So I think this team might take a little bit of time to gel during the regular season, but by the time playoffs come around, I can't see anyone beating them over 7 games.
Yeah, no doubt. They're stacked, aren't they? Okay, so what about for an MVP prediction? Who you picking?
Well, LeBron James is the obvious pick. I'm going to go with a little bit of a dark horse in Anthony Davis. I mean, this guy's 22, and with the exception of 2 eyebrows, he's got everything you could ever want. Great defensive player. A lot of people picking him for Defensive Player of the Year. He's expanding his offensive game. I mean, for a guy his size, he dribbles the ball tremendously. He's adding an outside shot. He's bulked up on a bit of muscle. But I think the real reason he's going to be an MVP contender is the New Orleans Pelicans' new coach, Alvin Gentry. A few years ago, he turned Amari Stoudemire into a genuine MVP candidate. Anthony, with all due respect to Stoudemire, Anthony Davis is a much better player, and I think Gentry will get the Pelicans playing at the level that they need for him to win an MVP award.
Yeah, no doubt. At 22 as well, that's the scary thing. He's got so much more development left in him. So, look, I'm going to play it safe, and as you said, I'm going to go with LeBron. I'm going to stick with the Cavs. I think they're going to win plenty of games in the East. If they stay fit and healthy, LeBron's going to have the team around him this year to really push for that championship once again as they did last year. I think he'll put up big numbers. Like you said with Davis, LeBron's been doing everything for 10 years. He can do it all. So I'm going to stay with him. In saying that, you can't rule out the reigning MVP, Steph Curry. He had an excellent season last year. There's no reason why he can't do it again. James Harden's obviously got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He still thinks he was the MVP last year. I think the Rockets will win more games as well. Adding Ty Lawson to their group, they've obviously they've recruited well over the off season. So, and Kevin Durant, if he stays fit and healthy, there's no reason why he can't return to his 2014 form, which saw him win the MVP. So plenty of players to watch out for. And I guess we've talked a bit about it already, and that's player movement over the off season. Which team do you think's improved the most?
Lots of teams out west have improved, as they always tend to do, but I'm going to look in the east and say the Miami Heat. They were killed by injuries last year. Josh McRoberts missed plenty of time. Dwayne Wade missed time, as he always tends to do. And then, of course, Chris Bosh, having those terrible blood clots in his lungs, saw him miss the last half of the season or so. If they can stay healthy, that helps them tremendously. And then you look at this team on paper, and it is stacked. Goran Dragic starting at point guard, Dwayne Wade, Luol Deng, Chris Bosh, Hassan Whiteside as your starting five. There is so much talent there. And then their bench too. Got Mario Chalmers, a two-time NBA champion. You've got Gerald Green, wonderful player to watch. Justice Winslow, who everyone is kind of saying is the steal of the NBA draft. Then you've got Josh McRoberts, Amari Stoudemire, and Chris Anderson all up front in your bench. I mean, this side, genuine top four contender in the East.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the Heat being stacked. Obviously, the team that jumps out at you in the West is obviously the Clippers. They've added, I think they identified bench impact and scoring as a weakness last year. They've added Paul Pierce, Lance Stevenson and Josh Smith to a starting team that already boasts DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul. They've got a really well-rounded squad now, and they run deep. I think the biggest advantage, though, in saying the names and the scoring that they've added, Paul Pierce gives them some genuine championship experience and a bit of a cool head around the locker room, which I think they need when you've got Chris Paul yelling at people every match. So, they're obviously going to be, if they weren't genuine contenders last year, they're definitely going to be this year because, they've really developed and improved.
Yeah, so I think another side that is probably going to make the biggest jump in the standings is going to be Oklahoma City. They had so many injuries last year. Kevin Durant missed most of the season. Russell Westbrook was out for a lot. They get those guys healthy. New coach in Billy Donovan. They're going to be right up there in the West. Yeah,
no doubt. And obviously one thing we haven't looked at is some of the Australian players that are going to have the biggest impact this season. We went to the whiteboard to take a look at some of our homegrown talent.
Australians seem to be more and more interested in the NBA with every passing season. Last year saw a record 8 Australians suit up for NBA teams, while 3 have picked up championship rings in the past 2 years. This year will once again see a number of boomers in key roles for their NBA teams. Paddy Mills, Andrew Bogut, and who could forget Matthew Dellavedova, who went from being a part-time role player to the owner of the highest selling jersey in the league during last season's finals. But arguably Australia's best basketballer won't be playing in the NBA this season. And no, we're not talking about Dante Exum, whose ruptured anterior cruciate ligament will see him miss a year. We're talking about Ben Simmons, who won't be in the NBA because he's too young. Entering his first year of college, 19-year-old Simmons has some serious hype about him. He won 3 national championships at high school in the States, as well as a host of personal accolades. In fact, Simmons is so good that his arrival to Louisiana State University has been compared to that of one of the NBA's best ever, Shaquille O'Neal. Unsurprisingly, Simmons is already touted as the #1 prospect for next year's NBA draft, but he's not the only promising Aussie youngster. Even with his injury, Dante Exum has the potential to be a very good NBA player for years to come, while fellow Aussies Isaac Humphries and Thon Maker are both already tipped to go in the first round of the 2017 NBA draft. So if you think Australia has it good in the NBA at the moment, wait a few years, because it's about to get even better.
Yeah, obviously plenty of really exciting young talent, especially Ben Simmons. I can't wait to see this guy play. But moving on now to what we learned this week. Daniel, what did you learn?
Well, a couple of weeks ago I said that the Wallabies were the favourites for the Rugby World Cup, and this week I learnt that I was way too premature. in saying that, because while the Wallabies were playing poorly and struggling against Scotland, the All Blacks were putting on an absolute clinic the day before against France. I mean, I still stand by, the fact that the Wallabies were the best side in the group stage of this tournament, but the All Blacks just gave a little reminder that it's not so much how you start these tournaments in the group stage, it's how you play in the knockout phase of the tournament, and they were lethal against France. You'd imagine the All Blacks are going to get through to the final, and whoever they end up playing, they're going to be a little bit worried about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what I learnt this week is that the NRL is in off-season turmoil. Probably the worst thing that could have happened over this week period. You had Ivan Cleary sacked from Penrith. You had David Smith step down as CEO of the NRL, probably as a result of that, failing to lock in that big television contract. And then controversy surrounding Hazem El Masri, that's obviously a massive issue for the NRL. And then the stuff with Matthew Lodge as well. The West Tigers obviously dumping him for his off-field indiscretion. So, there's a lot going on in the NRL, and I think they really need to get a cap on it and really sort out what's going on. First things first, though, I think, David Smith, I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know whether the NRL go for a CEO that's that businessman or go back to, an NRL diehard at heart. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you would think they're going to recruit someone from inside Australian sport at the very least for the next CEO. Staying with the NRL though, and Adam Quinlan is a local rugby league product who's already playing all over the world. After making his debut with the St George Illawarra Dragons, he headed over to the Super League last year to play with St Helens. We sat down with him yesterday to talk about his last few seasons as well as his future plans.
Adam Quinlan, thanks for joining me.
No worries.
So you started the season at St George Illawarra last year, and shortly before the season you moved to Parramatta, and then about halfway through the year you signed with St Helens in the Super League. So tell me how that was, moving around a bit.
Yeah, it was a bit tough, a bit of moving around there. Obviously enjoyed my time at St George and didn't really want to go, but sort of had to for my career, and then went to Parramatta and things didn't quite work out there, and then fortunately got an opportunity to head over to the UK to play for St Helens, which I was a bit worried about at first, obviously pretty far away, but I'm pretty happy with how it all panned out.
And so St Helens had a few injuries and they identified fullback obviously as a position that they needed to fill. Was that how they approached you?
Yeah, they had an injury. Their fullback went down earlier in the season, and they come to me then, but that was just when I went to Parramatta, so I thought I'd stay there and see how it went there, and then they come a month or so later and asked the same question, so I thought, yeah, it's time to do that, so I went over and enjoyed my time there. It was great.
And so obviously jet lag doesn't affect you, 4 days after you got off the plane you played your first match.
Yeah, I didn't have much choice there. First day I got there, the coach said, oh, you're right to train, and I couldn't really say no, so trained that day, and then I was sort of over it after a day or two, and then first game it went pretty well. Couldn't have went much better actually.
And so a hat-trick on debut in the first half, that's a pretty good first impression.
Yeah, by half time I was thinking, is this real? 3 tries, but it's sort of just the ball just bounced my way. I got lucky, I suppose, and but couldn't be happy with how it all went, and the fans they were great. They loved it, so it was good.
And so how was that with that whole new supporter base? I guess a lot of the St Helens fans probably wouldn't have known much about you at all.
Yeah, no, it was good. The fans there, it's a lot different to here. Obviously here you might get a bigger crowd, but there that sounds like there's twice as many. The way they sing and chant, and they got songs for different players and different teams, and that's real good. Makes the atmosphere unreal.
And did you get a song yourself?
I did, but I couldn't really understand it, so there's something about the mighty Quinn.
And so you started at fullback for the rest of the season with St Helens. You guys got knocked out in the semi-final. How do you think you went individually and as a team while you were over there?
Obviously St Helens, they're a pretty proud club. They're expected to finish at the top or thereabouts, and we ended up finishing third. I think we got beaten in the semi-final to Leeds. I think we're happy with how we went there, but we're just a bit unlucky in that semi-final. We thought we had it there, but unfortunately we didn't. But I'm sure everyone will be happy with the season. Leeds end up going on to win it, so we're thereabouts. It was good.
And so what were the biggest differences you found between the NRL and the Super League?
I think it's a little bit more relaxed over there, and it's out of the spotlight a lot. Obviously soccer being their main sport over there, you're not in the spotlight much, which is good, and you can relax a bit more. But I think it's a bit more less structure in the football aspects of things, and you can throw it around a bit more, and which suited my game, so I loved it over there, which helped a lot. And The ruck speed and that and wrestle and that's a little less there, and it's a bit more free flowing. So there's a few differences, but it suited my game, so I was happy with it.
And so what's the plan now? Have you committed to a club for this season?
Nothing's official as of yet, but it should be sorted within the next few days, well hopefully anyway. But I really enjoyed my time over there, and like I said, their style of footy over there suited me, so I'll probably head back there for another season at least, and just go from there. But yeah.
Adam Quinlan, thanks for your time.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, obviously an exciting young prospect there, and if you want to catch Jordan's full interview with Adam, be sure to check out our Facebook page tomorrow. But let's move on to the Fast Five now, starting with the Matador Cup. Jordan, who's impressed you most so far this season?
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with Nick Maddinson. He's a guy who he's got an enormous amount of talent and potential, and we've seen that for the last few years. He's made some big scores in Shield cricket and one-day cricket, but I think he's had a really consistent Matador Cup, and I think this Shield season's really where he needs to step up and really fill his boots with the runs, because I think there is genuine test selection up for grabs in that top order and middle order. He's one young cricketer who's been, tipped as a possible test player for a number of years. I think this is where he needs to really put his name forward, have a really consistent Shield season, and it's in his hands. Yeah,
I'm going to go with another young opening batsman in Cameron Bancroft, who of course made that big 100 the first weekend of the competition. Since then, hasn't made another huge score, but he's got a couple of 40s, a 50. But what's impressed me most has been his technique and his temperament. He just looks to have the right head on his shoulders for Test cricket, and his technique looks up to scratch as well. He's probably going to be named in the first Test squad in a couple of weeks. I'm really hoping he gets his first baggy green soon.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy who's had a pretty good Matador Cup is Matthew Wade. Now, there's been questions raised whether he should be considered for the Test side without the gloves and purely as a batsman. What do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely. There's no reason why someone should suddenly be discounted as a batsman purely because they wear the keeping gloves for their state side. I think, Wade's already made a couple of Test centuries. He averaged 57 with the bat in first class cricket last season. He's got a career average of 40 with the bat. I think, he should be in that conversation. Whether he's actually good enough yet, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, look, there's absolutely no reason why not. If you're a good enough batsman to make the Test squad, regardless of whether you're a keeper or not, you're in there. We've seen Sri Lanka do it for a number of years with Kumar Sangakkara. There's no reason why his name shouldn't be thrown forward. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking into the Rugby World Cup now, got a couple of semi-finals this weekend. Obviously, New Zealand v South Africa and Australia playing the Pumas. Who do you think's going to be in the final?
Look, it's very hard to look past the Kiwis. Obviously, they were dominant last week. They definitely flicked the switch after that group stage. That was sound, it was good, they did what they needed to, but I think now is obviously where they're going to really turn up the heat. Australia had an excellent group stage and they were probably the form team in the tournament. Last game they were less than impressive. However, I'm still going to go with those two.
Yeah, look, I think, Australia and New Zealand are the obvious picks. South Africa are going to be up against it, trying to beat New Zealand. The Argentina will be, they'll be heartened by what they saw from Australia, or rather what they didn't see from Australia last week. And, the Aussies have a few injuries around there. That being said, I think I didn't really see enough from Argentina last week, impressive as they were, to suggest they're going to beat the Wallabies.
Yeah, and as we spoke about earlier, the AFL trade period wraps up today. Aside from Geelong last week, who do you think's got the most out of the trade period?
I'm going to go a bit left of field here and say the Sydney Swans. Now, they haven't added any huge name players, but what they did was make a really nice trade, sending away Lewis Jetta for Callum Sinclair. Now, Swans needed a ruckman last year. Mike Pike, he's retired and he wasn't really cutting it last season. And then Kurt Tippett, he's no better than a backup ruckman. Sinclair will really help them out in that department. And the Swans also picked up a few extra draft picks to help them grab a few of their academy youngsters. I really like what they've done this off-season.
Yeah, for me, look, I'm going to go with Collingwood. I think they got Adam Chalora had been tipped to go to the Pies since very, very early in the season, and eventually they got their man. This is one of the best young midfielders in the competition, hands down, to join, a really good young midfield with Brodie Grundy, Taylor Adams, Scott Pendlebury's still got plenty of good years left in him, and Jack Crisp. An excellent pickup for the Pies. They also picked up Jeremy Howe, who I'm a bit worried about. I'm unconvinced, put it that way. In saying that, Collingwood need extra goal threats. He can take a really good pack mark. It's worth a gamble.
Yeah, okay, and let's finish up by looking at the English Premier League. We've got the Manchester Derby this weekend. Who do you think's going to take that one home, City or United?
Look, we know how deep City's squad is, regardless of the injuries they have. In saying that, I think if there's ever a time that Manchester United are going to knock City off, it's probably this weekend. You know, they're missing a couple. They're missing David Silva. They're missing Sergio Aguero. United have been playing some very good football, so it should be a really good match.
Yeah, I'm going to tip City in a close one for this one. I think, yes, they're missing Sergio Aguero and David Silva, who are kind of their two key attacking players. They've still got Yaya Toure running things in the middle of the park. Kevin De Bruyne has been playing fantastic football recently, really justifying that big price tag that City recently paid for him. I'm going to tip City.
Yeah, definitely. And look, guys, we're running out of time now, but before we go, instead of leaving you with a suggestion, we're just going to recommend you go back and check out all our episodes on YouTube, because this is our last one. Obviously, we've had a blast. We thank you all for watching, and we really appreciate all your support.
Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. As Jordan said, we've had plenty of fun, and we hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as we have. Remember that when you're watching the summer sport over the next few months, there's no better place to watch it from than a good armchair. Take care.